Meringue roll with tangerine filling. In this video, I will share the most successful meringue recipe for a roll and tell you how to make a very juicy tangerine filling. You can find a list of all ingredients in the description below this video. And let's start cooking with the tangerine filling, since it needs time to cool and stabilize. Peel the tangerines, divide into slices and be sure to remove all the bones. We will also need half a lemon, cut it into pieces and remove the pits, peel it is not necessary. Prepared fruits put in a blender and grind into a porridge. Pour the resulting mass into a 100. Add butter and sugar to it. Put on medium heat, stirring constantly. We wait for the sugar and oil to dissolve completely. There is no need to boil the mass. Just wait for complete dissolution. Then remove from the fire and let it cool a little. In a separate bowl, beat the eggs and beat them into a homogeneous mass. You don't need to beat for a long time. This can be done with a whisk or a fork. If you want it to be faster, you can also use a mixer. Next, the beaten eggs need to be poured in a thin trickle into the bowl, constantly stirring the fruit mass. Then we put it on medium heat again and boil until the first signs of boiling. We don't go far and constantly stir so that we don't burn anything. Separately mix cornstarch with water, and when the mass in the pot begins to boil, add the starch with water. And we continue to stir, cook until it thickens. There is no need to boil the mass for a long time. As soon as it begins to thicken, immediately remove from the heat. Next, the resulting mass must be passed through a sieve to remove pieces of fruit and particles of eggs that may have curled during cooking. As a result, you should get a homogeneous tangerine cream. Cover it with plastic wrap so that it does not wind up and leave to cool to room temperature. Then it must be put in the refrigerator at least 06 Handkoch so that the cream cools well and stabilizes. It can also be made the day before and left in the refrigerator overnight. And now we move on to preparing the meringue base for the roll. In a dry and clean bowl, separate the proteins from the yolks. Do this very carefully so that the yolk does not get into the protein. Otherwise, your squirrels just won't boil. In total, we will need 160 grams of protein. In this recipe, I advise using scales. It is better to use the proteins at room temperature, so they are better combined with the sugar yolk. In this recipe, we will not need to add a pinch of salt to the proteins. Pour in the sugar and start beating first at a low speed of the mixer and then gradually increase it to maximum. Beat until soft peaks. In this recipe, you can add all the sugar at once. Do not worry, during the whipping the sugar will completely dissolve and the meringue will be stable. Of course, the whipping time will increase a little, but personally, this method is much more convenient for me. But if you want, you can first beat the proteins until foam and only then continue to beat at a low speed of the mixer, gradually adding sugar. Both methods are correct, so do as you like. You can also add vanilla sugar if desired. After the meringue has been reduced to soft peaks, this is what it looks like. We add lemon juice or a pinch of citric acid. It is added so that there was no such noticeable smell of eggs. And in order for the meringue to be more stable, the lemon acid will help the food stabilize and be stronger. After adding the lemon juice, we continue to whip already to stable peaks. Gradually, the protein mass increases in volume, becomes lush, airy, and shiny. This is the consistency you should have. As a result, they are so white and dense and glossy, and they stay still when flipped. It took me 10 minutes to do this, but of course the whip time depends on the power of your mixer. Now we add starch in all our recipes. I use cornstarch since it has no smell or taste. Mix everything carefully with a spatula. From the bottom up, of course, you can mix at a low speed of the mixer, but there is a chance to already re-whip the proteins, so it is better to carefully mix the starch with a spatula. Look, the mass turns out to be quite dense and thick, and when you flip the spatula, the proteins don't run off. And now we line the parchment tray in such a way that it goes on the sides of the tray. My parchment is siliconized, so I don't grease it with anything. If you have a regular one, then it is better to lubricate it with a small amount of vegetable oil so that the base comes off well after baking. And so that the parchment does not wiggle while we distribute the meringue, you can lightly lubricate the corners. Transfer the meringue to a baking tray and distribute over the entire surface of the probe. I have the 20 cm by 30 cm size, but the standard on top will also work. Do not press hard and carefully level. If desired, you can sprinkle any nuts on top, but today I wanted to make a wavy pattern over the entire surface using. This is a toothed palette. You don't have to do this. Here it is already at your discretion, and now we send it to bake at a temperature of 150 degrees for approximately 20-25 minutes. Of course, everyone's ovens are different, so everyone's time may be different. I have meringue ready and baked in my oven for 30 minutes. It's already browned and has such a crust on top. Let it cool a little and then turn it over to a blank sheet of parchment. Carefully, slowly remove the parchment on which it was baked and let it cool completely. While the base cools down, start preparing the cream. Some light and airy creams are most suitable for a meringue roll. I always make cream with cottage cheese, cream and powdered sugar. It is not difficult to prepare, you just need to combine all the ingredients with a mixer until dense. For this cream, all ingredients must be cold. It turns out that this is such a gentle, very tasty and homogeneous cream. I am saving about 2 tablespoons of the total and will use it for decoration. Transfer the remaining cream to the already cooled base and distribute in an even layer. Next, we spread our mandarin filling. For convenience, you can put it in a pastry bag and make strips like mine, or spread it in a thin layer all over chem. Here you can already do as you are more convenient and familiar. The filling of the roll can be absolutely any. You can sprinkle any berries and or make berry jam. And now all that remains is to wrap the roll with parchment. This is how we carefully twist it. Try to twist the roll tightly. The top crust may crack slightly. It's okay for a meringue base. We wrap the finished roll in the same parchment and put it in the refrigerator at least at 200 so that the roll is well stabilized, and then it was easier to cut. The decoration of the roll can be absolutely any to your taste, or you cannot decorate it and serve it in this form. I will offer my version of New Year's decoration. Transfer the reserved cream to a pastry bag with a nozzle and remove it from the top. These are the flowers I put on the cream, slices of tangerines, and supplement with sprigs of rosemary in a small amount. It can safely be used to decorate desserts. There is no smell. In the dessert it doesn't give me a little red color. So I add a little frozen cranberries and all this beautiful composition. I sprinkle powdered sugar. It turned out to be such a beautiful and New Year decor. It can be served on the festive table and pleasantly surprise guests with its beauty and taste. The meringue roll holds its shape perfectly and turns out to be very tender. Literally melts in your mouth, moderately sweet, slightly crunchy on the outside and very tender, like a cloud on the inside. And the filling turns out with a rich tangerine flavor and is not bitter, just incredibly delicious.